Welcome to Fireside Nets, brought to you by Empire Sports Media. We are your hosts. I'm Spen. He's Pete. And it is Monday, August 7th. We are coming to you live. Pete, you are in Brooklyn.
Correct.
I'm in New Jersey. And episode 160. So nice little round number there. What's going on, Pete? How are we tonight?
Just, taking in the ambiance, trying to make it through until training camp. And, going to watch some USA basketball tonight. Watch our boys.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Pete told me the game is at 10 p.m. tonight, EST. Not sure where you can watch it. Going to assume NBA TV or ESPN, one of the two. You probably got a 50% chance of success there. If it's not on one of those, it's probably not on TV. But I'm sure you can stream it from the internet. And when Pete refers to our boys, he's talking about Brooklyn Bridges, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, the two studs on the Brooklyn Nets. They're on Team USA. We've been seeing clips on Twitter, clowning around at practice, shooting. All the vibes have been good with Team USA. And I thought it was cool that Steve Kerr also spoke glowingly of Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson recently. So we're going to get into it. We'll talk about Team USA. We'll talk about the new acquisition for the Brooklyn Nets, and we'll talk about some other things. But, I guess we can start with Team USA. Before we do that, I wanted to just say I'm drinking a coconut blonde ale tonight, showing Pete on the screen. It's called Hula Skirt. It's from Hackensack Brewing Company. Sometimes I like to have a cold beverage when I podcast. One of my favorite beers of all time. It's a coconut blonde ale.
Very fancy, very tropical.
I'm a tropical guy, Pete. That's what I am. But I do live in America. I do live in the US of A. So let's get into it. What do you think of everything we're seeing from Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson in these Team USA practices?
I thought it was very interesting. We have people on Nets Twitter going insane over this one clip of Mikal Bridges driving in, I guess, against like five guys, and everyone's dissecting that one clip, saying, oh, he should be scoring here. He should be passing. He should be doing this. He should be doing that. It's a practice that's being filmed. In a real practice where you probably run more stuff that you don't want the other teams to see, probably don't put out clips like that. That means it's okay for the other people and the people, our fans to watch this type of stuff. I think people are taking it a little bit too seriously.
By the way, you can watch it on FS1 tonight, 10 p.m. So I'm glad that I got that out. Shout out to the real Cody Mallory, big on Nets Twitter. All I had to do was search Team USA, and he had it right there. So FS1. Look, Pete, we are in the dead of the offseason. I said this on the last show. There is nothing to talk about. So you show me one Mikal Bridges highlight, I'm going to lose my shit over it. I'm going to go absolutely bonkers. I'm going to tell you that he's the second coming of Michael Jordan. I'm going to tell you that Cam Johnson is a better three-point shooting version of Scottie Pippen, and that the Nets are going to win 6 straight titles. That's what I'm going to tell you, because that's where we are in the offseason. It's the beginning of August. Hard Knocks hasn't even started yet. It's going to start tomorrow night. There's nothing going on. The fact that I get to see Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson on a basketball court before training camp begins, to me, that's a benefit that not every fan has. Knicks fans have it with their boys Brunson and Josh Hart. Is that it for the Knicks?
I don't know.
I think that's it. Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, we got those guys. I've seen Jaren Jackson doing some work on this team. There's just a ton of guys that if you're a fan of these teams, to get to see them doing any sort of basketball activity right now is absolutely awesome.
Or a nightmare.
Yeah, I know you. So your big thing is you're just terrified of injury.
Oh, yeah. This is the Nets. This is the franchise that has, got the big three, and we couldn't even make it through a season with everybody together. This is, people call me pessimistic. I don't care. Because I know my franchise. I've been here. Since like the JKD years. I've seen everything that could possibly happen to a team. So I'm not willing to risk my next season over Team USA basketball. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm not patriotic enough. I don't know. But I want to see a Nets championship. So the risk of putting these guys out for extra run really fucking scares me. It really does. And look at all these other. I can't even talk right now. Look at Luka. Luka got hurt. If you're a Mavs fan, you would be shaking your computer and throwing your laptop. How could you not? Like, I don't know. We're one Mikal Bridges. No, let me finish. Let me fucking finish. We're one Bridges injury away from being fucked up for the entire year and me being upset till next June. So fuck everybody.
So I have two things to say. Number one, Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson aren't carrying Luka Doncic's weight. Okay. Luka's weight sort of leads to him getting hurt. And you've heard it alluded to a lot via Mavs insiders. The Mavericks want Luka to shed weight, and they want him to shed weight yesterday. They want him to be like a little bit more fit looking, I guess. They want to get rid of that extra chunkiness he's got. Me personally, I think that's part of his greatness. Like, I think part of the reason why he's so good is because he's so thick and he can bully, smaller defenders. But obviously you can turn a lot of that extra weight into muscle. So I totally understand your perspective. If you were a Hawks fan right now, would you be happy that Trae Young didn't make this team or wasn't chosen to represent Team USA?
I would be so happy if I was a Hawks fan. I would be so happy if Steve Kerr would come out tomorrow, say, listen, Mikal Bridges, he's doing everything right, but we just feel like we need to make a change, and he's not going to be on the roster. I'd be celebrating. I'm going to be popping bottles like a championship game because I don't want the risk. I really don't want the risk. I don't think it's worth it. And you know what? You said Luka and his weight. What about Paul George a couple years ago? Yes, another freak injury. I get it, guys. I get it. This shit could happen, and that's the risk of all this. But for me, it's not worth it. It just really isn't worth it. I can't say it enough.
Yeah, the only thing I got with Paul George is I have a theory that God just doesn't like him. Like, sure, he's a very talented basketball player, top, 15 in the world, had a really solid career so far, might be a Hall of Famer. Do we think Paul George is a Hall of Famer?
Could be, but not right now.
Could be, not right now. But for some reason, he has like the worst luck with getting hurt. And then, also his teammates just never being there when he needs them. Yeah, I get it. I'm still excited to see these sort of younger upcoming players get their due, right? Like, there's no superstars on this team. Like, Steph's not on this team. Luke is not on this team. Kyrie, KD, Devin Booker, Jokic, the list goes on and on. This is the next wave of stars, you might say. And from what I've seen, they've said that Jaren Jackson has been voted the best player in training camp. I mean, I know we're a Nets podcast, but does this come as a shock to you? Because this was a guy that we thought Claxton had a chance to beat out for Defensive Player of the Year last year, didn't. Now Claxton has some extra added motivation to win the Defensive Player of the Year award. But this is a guy who's won it. He was the second or third best player on a really good Grizzlies team. What are your thoughts on Jaren Jackson Jr. being that guy in the Team USA training camp?
It's not a surprise. And if you remember, real basketball fans might remember at the beginning of last year, towards the early months, there was this huge article that came out. Maybe this is a troll, so maybe I'm being sucked into something, but I'm pretty sure this was real, that they said that his stats at home were a lot better, like for rebounds and blocks and stuff. And there was definitely a sense that he was getting some stats being padded, right? But it doesn't take stats to show that this guy's a great defender, right? And when it comes to teams like this, it's all about fit. We had Kobe Bryant years ago on Team USA on the Redeem team. He was like the top defender. The guy just won a scoring title, but you know what? He was the MVP just because of the intensity he brought, just the defense that he brought. You had all these scorers around him, and it didn't matter. It's all about fit. So, no, it does not surprise me that he's the most, glamorized player, saying he's the best player in training camp so far.
The only other guy I've heard about is Austin Reeves. And I think everyone just acts surprised because he's a white guy. He's a good player. I mean, the white thing gets old. Like, we get he's white. We watched him play in the playoffs last year. I don't need to see that brought up every single time he has like a good training camp or good game. Like, no one gives a shit at this point. He belongs. Everybody knows he's good. So those are the four names I've seen, those two. And then obviously the dudes on the Nets. What I loved that I saw, I brought this up earlier, but Steve Kerr spoke glowingly about Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. Did you see the quote from him? And what do you think of, one of the best coaches in the last 10 years complimenting the two studs on the Brooklyn Nets.
It means absolutely nothing to me.
Wow. Nothing.
You know why? Because what's he supposed to say? Yeah, these guys are fucking shit. They fucking suck. You know what I mean? Like, like, of course he's gonna say, like, oh yeah, they're playing great, blah blah blah. But what else is he gonna really say? They're pretty much devoting their time to play for Team USA. They don't have to do this. And as the coach of Team USA, of course you're happy. And these guys are not, like crappy guys. These are real good players. So even if they aren't playing their best, you're probably still going to be like, man, they're playing so good. We're happy where they're at right now. You know what I mean? I guess it's a good sign because you don't want to hear anything else than that. But I don't put too much into that. It's a lot of fluff for me.
Right. Like I think of what if he said, yeah, Mikhail's, a superstar, which is like the popular narrative, right? Mikal Bridges is going to be an all-star next season. What if he said, yeah, I think Cam has a long ways to go? Like that would have really bothered me. Like I would have hated that. I think the fact that he complimented both of them, like for them, I think it's great for their confidence to know that this legendary coach thinks you guys are good basketball players. But I'm gonna sort of tie this all with a bow and say that I'm in the opposite camp from you. I love to see these guys getting more reps. I love to see them playing with, sort of their talent. Mikal and Jalen Brunson are kind of on that same level of superstar. I like to see that happening. I think it's going to be nothing but positive for these two dudes to play with this unit. When they come back, hopefully they pick up some leadership qualities that they developed from Team USA, and they bring that back to the Brooklyn Nets. Speaking of Brooklyn Nets, our team gained a member this past week. Kind of shocking out of the blue news, but welcome to the Nets, Trendon Watford. The Nets signed the 22-year-old 6'9" hybrid forward who last played for the Portland Trailblazers. Pete, Nets fans seemed very excited about this guy when they signed him. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't pretend like I know players when I don't really have no context on this dude's career thus far, what he brings to the table. I watched some highlights. Seems pretty good. If you wanted to bring up one more thing with Team USA, that's totally cool. But I want to get into Trendon Watford after that.
No, I'm good. This is
okay.
A very interesting story with Trendon Watford. Basically, he was going to get drafted by the Nets, actually, in his draft year. His agent says, no, it's not a good deal. Portland is going to give you a deal if you don't get drafted. That winds up happening. It winds up starting as pretty much like a camp invite. I think maybe he was a two-way at most. And then he winds up getting a standard contract, winds up becoming a fan favorite out of nowhere, plays decent minutes. In 21-22, his first year, he played in 48 games, averaged 7 points, 53% from the field, only 23% from three. Last year, he comes back, 62 games, 19 minutes. This is like a standard, role for a team that's looking for a young guy. He gets the minutes, 7 points, 56% from the field, 39% from three. I talked to a couple Blazer fans, and this is his deal. They think that he's kind of hit his ceiling, and that's why they let him go, because he's a good passer. He could shoot the three. He doesn't take too many threes, but I think there's a great pickup. Once again, a young guy. Most of his scoring was from two places, really. He does catch and shoot threes at 39%. I got to write this down. 39.7%. Beautiful catching threes. 88% of his field goal attempts were either less than 10 feet in from the basket or a catch and shoot three from above the break.
Okay, that's a lot to digest. Number one, another wing, right? This guy's not going to play down low. So that's what I think. We have an abundance of wings. He kind of reminds me of Kessler Edwards. In a way, that's sort of what Kessler did, right? Wasn't Kessler a catch and shoot guy? He could score in the paint. He had no mid-range game, essentially.
Pretty much. I know I threw a lot of you guys, but to break it down, good passer. It would be maybe a small ball center at best. Played most of the minutes at power forward, and like I said, you're going to be seeing a lot of catch and shoot threes from him, and a lot of scoring inside for the non-basketball nerds out there.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to poo-poo this addition too much because a lot of people who actually watch this guy think he's good. So I'm going to believe their opinion and just sort of call it like it is. It does worry me, though, that Marks just has like 9 wings now. Like, think about the wings we have. Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith is a 4 who plays the wing. Darius Bazley. Who plays more right now, Pete? Darius Bazley or Trendon Watford?
That's a great question. I was actually thinking about that. I think Watford does. He seems, although it's tough because Bazley did start as like a 19-year-old.
We don't know. We have zero idea. This is Marks kind of like taking a chance on a bunch of guys. I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It's like when you go to a new pizza spot, you get 4 or 5 slices. You might love 1 or 2, right? 1 or 2 might be it, but 3 are going to be mid, or they're not going to compare to the first 2. So this is how I look at it. He's taking a chance on all these guys, and like they're not all going to pan out. We're not going to get great seasons from Watford and Royce O'Neal and Darius Bazley, and like that's not going to happen. But it's a numbers game. You're hoping that like we can hit 300, right? Maybe 1 out of 3 of those guys has a nice season, or 2 out of 3 of those guys has a nice season. And those, by the way, everyone I named, with the exception of maybe DFS or Royce, are bench players. Our starting wings are Mikal, Cam Johnson. Am I missing anybody? I guess Cam Thomas is a wing who comes off the bench. And if Spencer Dinwiddie isn't point, he'll be a wing. So it's just, I don't know. I just, I want to see us sign one big man. I like Trendon Watford. I like the upside. But Pete, we can go with this. It does fit the narrative of Sean Marks getting younger, getting more athletic, and just not going after anybody over the age of like 27, 28.
Yeah, this is what I'm going to kind of give you an example of this. This is sort of like a lottery ticket. We're buying, it's a $5 lottery ticket, and we're just going to buy about 10 of them. And we're going to say, Spen, if it hits, we got something good here. If not, then we didn't put a lot into it. So it's okay. We'll come back next week. And that's essentially it. That's essentially it.
Are you worried that we haven't really gone after any quote unquote big men this offseason? Or are you just sort of riding this younger, more athletic wave that Sean Marks is riding?
I think Watford could play the 4. I'm happy that we got another big man. I would have liked to see a center, but I think this guy can play the 4. So that kind of gives me a little, a little reinsurance, I could say. But still, if Claxton gets hurt, oh boy, is it going to be bad.
I know that's your big. You said that last week. Obviously we're one injury away from being one of the worst teams in the NBA. That's your point. Who comes to mind? Maybe it's just because their names both begin with T. Because I look at a player like Trendon Watford. I watch a few highlights. I look at his stats, and I try to think, who can I compare him to? And I said Kessler Edwards. Maybe that was off. But Pete, you're a diehard Nets fan, and this was a guy who was on the Nets for like a hot minute. Remember Travion Graham on those D-Lo teams?
Oh, yeah, I remember. Are you bringing that up because of the recent news?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Didn't he? Man, I got to look this up before I say it.
Time out. I'm going to talk about. Oh, was he part of the lawsuit? I know what you're talking about. I don't know if he.
Didn't he just get? Man, I feel like I'm gonna mess this up. So I got to make sure.
I know there were a few former Nets named in that big lawsuit. I can't think of any names right now.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't.
No, I don't. No, I think I'm good. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. But
was it him or no?
No, it wasn't him.
Good. Travion Graham, you're a good guy. We like you on this podcast. Please come on the show.
Of course, yeah. Of course. But yeah, that was in 18-19 he was on the team. But
18-19. No, but look, here's what he did. He hit timely 3-pointers. He would come in the game, he'd come off an off-ball screen, and he'd hit a big 3. And it sounds like Trendon Watford can do that and add a little bit more athletically, get to the rim a little bit. That's the kind of guy we're looking at, though. When I hear a player has no mid-range, I think of a Travion Graham with a little bit of athleticism.
Yeah, he could pass all. I don't know if you guys seen the highlights from Watford, but he can really throw a dime. I've seen him throwing lobs, hitting cutters. Like you could say that he's a hybrid because on Basketball Reference it does say small forward next to his name. But in all accounts, he's really a power forward who could just pass and do some pretty nice things. Like I said, good pickup. It's a lottery ticket.
Yeah, I get it. And listen, if we somehow still want to trade for Damian Lillard, it'd be a Portland Trailblazers teammate he can hang out with, right?
You're funny.
All right. Anything else on Trendon Watford before we move on?
Absolutely not.
And I'll give you a chance. I know you had one more thing on Team USA. I want to hear it. This is our show. We dictate what topics we talk about. So give me one last Team USA thought, and then we're going to move on to the next topic.
Okay, this is what I was going to say before. How would you feel if you're Cam Johnson, if Steve Kerr is raving about your teammate, both these guys are starting, Mikal Bridges doing this, he's great, he's tremendous, but then you don't mention Cam Johnson? Do you feel a certain type of way? Is that okay as a Nets fan? Is it like, man?
It's a good question. It's a very good hypothetical. I think that if you're Cam Johnson, you accept that, like, this is Mikal Bridges' team. This is not a LeBron D Wade type deal, right? Where like they were kind of, it was a two-headed monster. Like, yeah, LeBron was great, but that was still D Wade's team, so it kind of evened out. Mikal Bridges is the alpha. Cam Johnson is not close to him right now. After last year, after the playoffs, what we saw, Cam Johnson had his moments, don't get me wrong, but I think if I were to go to both of them and say, hey, Mikal Bridges, you are better than Cam Johnson at basketball, I understand Cam Johnson's a competitor. He might think differently, but based on the narrative and everything and just, you know, how much attention Mikal Bridges got last season, I think it makes sense. So I don't think he'd be Superman. I think he'd probably use it as motivation, but these guys are realistic. They know where they stand in the pecking order.
That's fair.
All right. So I've been on here a million times saying I want to see the Nets sign another big man. Well, there is a guy out there that the Nets are watching work out in Miami. They've been keeping tabs on him for a while. And that's Harry Giles, former Duke Blue Devil. Now, me personally, I'm very intrigued by him. He was supposed to be a star, I think, coming out of high school. He was like a very high recruit, wasn't necessarily dominant at Duke. I think he actually might. I do not remember his Duke career, so I'm not even going to try to guess. Comes to the NBA, gets drafted, injury, right?
Yeah, I think he was coming off an injury. Yeah.
Gets drafted by Sacramento, has like 2 very forgettable years as a young player. I think he actually last played for Portland, the NBA team, in 2021, and he was in the G League recently. So he's supposed to be a nice NBA player. He hasn't worked out thus far, but I'm intrigued by him, Pete. He's 6'10", 7'3" wingspan, former Duke Blue Devil. I don't know if I've ever told you this. I'm a huge Duke guy. Like huge. Last few seasons, I haven't been paying attention, but yeah, what are you? You're UNC guy?
No. I was a St. Francis Brooklyn fan because that's my alma mater. They just dropped the program, so I'm a little in my feelings about college basketball right now. But I'm a very big Colorado Buffaloes fan, and that's even before. Yeah, I adopted them as my football team for a couple. I went there a couple times to check out the area when I was a college student.
So the Colorado University.
Yeah, Colorado Buffaloes.
That's Spencer Dinwiddie's alma mater?
Yeah, and it just happens to be. You get the bond there,
right? I like bond? That. For those who don't know, my co-host Pete is about as big a Spence Dinwiddie fan as you can get, which makes sense because my name's Spencer and he likes me too, so it works out.
Yeah.
Harry Giles, we're gonna watch him. Nets are gonna watch him work out in Miami. Got a 7'3" wingspan. What are your thoughts on potentially signing this, again, young guy, athletic guy, closer to a big man than anybody else on this roster, minus Claxton and Day'Ron Sharpe?
All right. He's 25 years old. 2021, he was with the Trailblazers, like you said. He played 38 games. Wound up shooting 34% from 3. But the question for me is, if this guy is so good with so much potential, why wasn't he on an NBA team last year? How come he's not getting minutes? How come no one's picking him up? Why? This guy's so good. Why not? Because answer is that maybe he's dealing with. I think there was some other stuff, but I don't want to say because I'm not 100% researched. But like, if someone is good enough, has the NBA talent, and is a center who's shooting 34% from 3, there's a reason why he's not on an NBA team. You know what I mean? It sounds nice. Sean Marks, he should be investigating every rock, make sure every stone is unturned when we're looking for a big man. But at this time we hear 10 names being thrown out. Oh, this guy's coming back in the NBA. He's working out. The Nets are going to check him out. The Knicks are going to check him out. Golden State is checking him out, and then they don't get signed. They get maybe a training camp deal somewhere, and they don't even touch the NBA floor. So I'm happy Sean Marks is investigating, but I'm not going to put too much credence into this until I see a contract be signed.
I totally get where you're coming from. So just to give you some perspective, the Knicks saw Giles work out in Vegas earlier in the offseason. So the Knicks watched him, passed. He's going to work out for the Magic soon. Or no, he did work out for the Magic. He's working out for Golden State next week, and he worked out for the Nets on 8/5. So he worked out for them on Saturday. So I agree with you. Why isn't he being picked up? I'm going to shoot him a follow on Twitter because I'm a nice guy. Nets personality on Twitter, Pod Thorn. If you don't follow Pod, he's a great follow. He wrote, Harry is the type of talent that is worth a look. He makes a lot of sense to add to all of a sudden a nice group of bigs the Nets have, especially if they nab Harry Giles. Okay, so he likes him. I know Pod had responded to one of my tweets, which I do want to find because I really liked his. Here we go. Because I wrote Marks is a weird GM. I saw this news. I was like a little, why are you, again, I share sort of the same sentiment as you. Why don't you get someone who's proven? Pod wrote, you got to find reclamation projects with the current CBA. Cheap talent is mandatory. Draft picks, vet mins have to be good. Harry is young, even though those knees are chop suey. He's so young, and you can take a flyer on that talent. I get that, right? I can see why that's attractive for Sean Marks. Like you said, it's the lottery example. You're probably not going to hit, but on the off chance that you do hit, you look like a fucking genius.
Listen, I agree, and listen, he was right. He was right. Like, you have to find. I've been preaching the same. If you look under that same thing, I retweeted it or commented under saying facts because he's right. The Nets are gonna need to find guys. Every NBA team is gonna need to find a cheap player to add in at the back of the roster. And you know what? It is rare to find a young guy at that size who maybe could hit 30% from three, right? So maybe it's a good thing. But the fact of the matter is, like we said, there's a reason why he's not on a roster.
I'll tell you this, and I would rather a million times out of a million taking a flyer on a Harry Giles as opposed to taking another flyer on a Norvell Pell or a Nerlens Noel or guys that we know are just going to fill up a roster spot and never see the floor. We've had a good amount of centers come through here and just leave. I'm missing one other guy. I think we had him last season. What's his name?
Moses Brown, the guy who's like 7 foot that everyone keeps on telling me about. But he was on the team last year and never saw the floor except for like 5 minutes.
At least I know who Harry Giles is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. This is totally random, and I didn't include this on our rundown. I saw Serge Ibaka was recently interviewed by Shams Charania. He's been in the league for 14 seasons. I'd add Serge to the squad. Why not?
I think he wants to win. I think he's not.
Oh, does he?
I just want a roster spot. I think he's like, I still want to play for a winner.
Bastard.
I would take him in too.
God, no, these guys just want to play for winners. Come play for the Brooklyn Nets. I want to do that. That's better. All right. So I thought of a really fun way to wrap up the show today. Mm-hmm. And there's always these, I don't know what, it's sort of like an activity where you see people try to build the best NBA player, and they'll say, I want to give this player Steph Curry's shooting ability, and they should have I almost said Ben Simmons. They should have, Chris Paul's passing ability and LeBron James's strength, and this guy's rebounding and yada yada. So I thought it'd be fun for me and Pete to build the perfect NBA player, Brooklyn Nets edition. So I'm gonna take note of this, and I think you should too. There are 6 categories, right? I have scoring, I have shooting, and then in parentheses I put 3-pointers. I have passing, I have rebounding, I have defense, I have basketball IQ / decision making. So we're gonna come up with our perfect NBA player using these 6 categories, only choosing Nets. Pete, I'm going to let you go first. Who would you choose as your scoring option?
KD.
Timeout. They have to be current Nets.
Oh, they're current? Then why didn't you tell me that?
That is the caveat. Yeah, I should have been more specific.
That's kind of a big thing.
They have to be currently on the roster. So our teams or our player might be similar, but I want to hear yours.
Okay, I think I'm gonna take everything of Mikal Bridges. No, I'm kidding. For scoring, I would definitely have to go with Mikal Bridges. I think that's the obvious, right? He has the best all around game at the current moment for this team. What do you think?
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. So that's an easy one, right? We're both gonna pick. Pete has Mikal Bridges, and so does Spencer. There's no debating it. He averaged the most on the team. Nobody was as consistent as him. You can't really argue Dinwiddie. You can't really argue Cam. So I think scoring, that's easy. So we both pick Mikal Bridges. Okay, what about shooting three-pointers?
This is when it gets a little bit tougher. I'm going to have to pick between I want to say Mikal Bridges again, but just for the sake of not picking Mikal Bridges for everything, I'm going to go with Spencer Dinwiddie, 40% three-point shooter with Dallas. I'm going to use that, even though that wasn't a net, but he is a net right now. Elite corner three shooter. And yeah, I just didn't want to pick Cam Johnson or Mikal Bridges because I have a feeling you're going to pick one of the two.
So I'm going to go Cam Johnson. The only other guy that pops in my mind is Cam Thomas.
Ooh, that would have been a good one. Fuck.
We didn't pick him for scoring. But Cam Johnson's just a better three-point shooter. Cam Thomas, that's probably the biggest flaw in Thomas's game is his three-point shooting. He's deadly mid-range. I don't have the percentages in front of me. He's not a terrible three-point shooter. He just doesn't put a lot of them up. So I'll go Cam Johnson shooting in parentheses three-pointers. So you have Dinwiddie. I have Cam Johnson. Okay. Passing.
I think there's only one person really, it obviously has to be Spencer Dinwiddie. No, I'm kidding. You have to go with Ben Simmons, right? He's the elite passer of the team. He has to be. It has to be.
Yeah. You could make an argument for Dinwiddie because his assist numbers were great. Since he's been here, he's been top of the league in assists. But I agree with you. When both guys are healthy, I'm probably going to go. I am going Ben over Spence, but we're going to have to get the basketball IQ decision making, and that's still on the table. So just remember that. Okay, so we both go Ben Simmons passing, rebounding.
The team sucks as a whole with rebounding, but I'm going to have to go with Claxton because he's the only rebounder. Right?
Agreed. Unanimous. Easy. We don't have any big men. You can make an argument for Sharp and say he's a better rebounder than Clax. He just doesn't see the court enough. But no, I think it's Nick Claxton. Okay, this is actually a great one. Defense.
I know I don't know who you're gonna pick, but I know who I'm gonna pick. I'm not gonna focus on big or small. I'm just gonna go overall defense. I'm gonna go Dennis Smith Jr.
Wow. Ooh, I like that a lot. Okay, Pete is going Dennis, and give me your reasoning behind that.
Well, a very good defender. All the advanced statistics last year show him as like a top 5 defender on the perimeter in the NBA. I have a good feeling about him and his defense next year. You can make an argument with Bridges, but if we were gonna do that, I would pick Bridges for almost half the list. So I'm gonna have a little fun with it, and I definitely think that Dennis Smith Jr. is up there.
Okay, so here's what I'm doing.
You're mute. What a pro this guy is. What a pro, guys.
I'm changing because I got so excited. I hit the mute button. I am changing my rebounding pick. I am going with Day. I'm going to say Day'Ron Sharp is the top rebounder on this team. I think if he played the minutes that Claxton gets, I think he'd average more rebounds. I think he's more ferocious on the boards, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But in terms of defense, I got to go Claxton.
That's fair.
Claxton can guard 1 to 5. He's mobile. He's shut guys down on the perimeter. He's made life hell for some guys. I've just seen him defend more than Mikal. So I'm going to go Claxton as my defense.
Yeah, that was between Claxton and Dennis Smith Jr. I feel like if, unfortunately, because of the talent on the roster, we could pretty much just take 1 or 2, 3 guys, and half of this list will be just them. But Yeah, you can't go wrong with Claxton here for sure. Day-Day's a more interesting pick, though. But so on.
All right, here you go. Basketball IQ and decision making. Who are you going with?
That's tough. Basketball IQ and decision making. I'm trying to think. I would go with Bridges. I would really go with Mikal Bridges.
Mikal Bridges. That's not a bad answer.
That's going to be my pick for sure.
Okay, I'm going to go with Lonnie Walker.
That's fair.
And the reason is I've seen all of the Nets players on offense make terrible decisions last season, right? Like, think about Dinwiddie in some of those games against Philly. Remember the layup? He tried to do the right-handed layup on the left side and just got swatted. Yeah.
Okay,
so I think of that. I think of, Ben Simmons' unwillingness to look at the basket. I think of Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson not being there yet. They're going to get better at playmaking, but they're not there yet. Dennis Smith Jr., he's known for his defense. So at that point, like, I thought of Royce O'Neal. I've seen Royce O'Neal have some gross turnovers. Lonnie Walker, I watched him play flawless basketball against the Golden State Warriors when he got in that fourth quarter. I saw him take smart shots and put away. He helped save LeBron James's legacy. No, just kidding. He put away the Warriors, and honestly, we could have had him for our 3-pointer shooting because Lonnie Walker is a sniper. So I'm gonna go Lonnie Walker. He's my basketball IQ decision making guy. Okay, so I'm gonna recap this quick, and then we'll end the show. Number 1, scoring. Pete had Mikal Bridges. Number 2, shooting. Pete had Spencer Dinwiddie. Number 3, passing. Pete had Ben Simmons. Number 4, rebounding. Pete had Nick Claxton. Number 5, defense. Pete had Dennis Smith Jr. Number 6, basketball IQ. Pete had Mikal Bridges. It's a pretty damn good player. I like that. Spence's picks. I had Mikal for scoring. I had Cam Johnson for 3-pointers / shooting. I had Ben Simmons for passing. I had Day'Ron Sharpe for rebounding because he's a dog on those boards. I had Nick Claxton for defense, and I had Lonnie Walker for basketball IQ decision-making. I'm probably taking your player over mine. I'm going to be honest with you. Oh, man. All right. That does it for another episode of Fireside Nets, brought to you by Empire Sports Media. I'm Spen.
I got one thing I gotta say. One thing I gotta say, guys. I recently dropped an episode of the Only Net Fans You Know. Check it out. We just dropped it a couple days ago. It's me and my co-host Charlie. He came back finally. He is alive and well. And go ahead, Spence. Catch us on the Fireside.
No. Shout out to Charlie for being alive. I was gonna go to you.
Oh, you were? I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course, brother. Of course.
I got to interrupt you.
No, you're good. Listen, that was I was gonna go to you. I got you when it comes to Only Nets Fans You Know, because guess what? As much as I love Fireside and it's a great Nets podcast, Only Nets Fan You Know is equally as fun, and it's entertaining, and Pete and Charlie, they do a great job over there. So please, everyone, if you listen to this show, you definitely want another Nets podcast in your life because you're a Nets fanatic. Listen to Pete's other show, Only Nets Fan You Know. Please.
We're good.
And that, you like that? And that does it this week on Fireside Nets, brought to you by Empire Sports Media. Thanks again for listening, and tune in next week to another edition of FSN.